Hi guys, in this episode of Plans.Zone, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the new Fear the Walking Dead webisode that was released today called Dead in the Water. And yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. Admittedly, I feel like it wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be, but it definitely was better than I expected it was going to be. And before I say anything more in regards to the quality of this thing and whether I like it or not and how much I like it, I do want to say that this is essentially a backdoor pilot for Tales of the Walking Dead. And I kind of wish that it was part of Tales of the Walking Dead Season 1 because of its quality. Because this is a webisode. And I don't expect it to be as high of a quality and as high budgeted as your typical Fear the Walking Dead or The Walking Dead episode. It's obviously going to be lower budgeted, but it's not like it needs to be higher budgeted because it is set in one location. They already have those sets built, so there's no reason for them to spend that much more money on it, you know? But even then, I do feel like the writing, the acting, and it's just the whole work behind it definitely feels kind of lower budgeted and lower quality. It doesn't feel like a TV production. It feels like I don't want to say that it feels like a YouTube production or whatever, but definitely feels more like indie level stuff. It kind of leans more towards that. And for the most part, I'm fine with it because visuals wise and directing wise, it looked really good. It looked like any other Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, should I say more so, episode, because Fear the Walking Dead's visuals I feel like have been better all the time. Like even season 1 to 6 to 7 has been looking amazing, and especially since season 6, it's looked fucking amazing. So much better than the main show. So visually definitely looked as good as an episode, but writing wise, it definitely felt like it should have stayed in the oven for at least a couple more hours. It definitely felt like it should have gone through a few more rewrites and should have been spiced up a little more. And the kind of the same thing applies to the dialogue of this as well. Because for the most part, there's nothing necessarily egregiously bad. It just feels wonky and very simplistic and shallow kind of writing. Like when you have one character saying, "We gotta do this for America," and it just kind of feels like, okay, yeah, I get where the character is coming from, and the general idea of what he's saying is not bad. It's just that the way the sentence is written out is just kind of silly and simplistic. It does feel like something I would write. And I don't think my writing is particularly good or anything, but for the standards that I have set for myself and for the standards a Wattpad writer could have, I think it's pretty good. But for a TV show standards, the writing and the dialogue specifically definitely should have been better. Although admittedly, I did really like the fact of how many F-bombs we got in this. Because we got the most we've ever gotten in anything The Walking Dead. We had like 5 or 6 F-bombs. At a certain point, I was just like not even surprised anymore. And I enjoyed that. I actually like the fact that it had so many F-bombs. But at the same time, seeing how many F-bombs this had, which it has them because it's just an AMC Plus production and not it's not gonna be on the AMC channel. Seeing how many F-bombs this has just makes it so that much more jarring for the main show and Fear the Walking Dead itself not having any or very, very few. Because the only F-bombs that I can remember from Fear the Walking Dead was 2 in season 3. I don't think they've used any in 4, 5, or 6, and not used any so far in 7. Well, for the main show, we've had some F-bombs in the Blu-rays, but for the TV version of it, we've only had 2, technically 3. We had one in season 9, episode 4, when Rick and Daryl were in the hole, and Daryl said fuck. We had one in season 10, episode 17, although for whatever reason, it was overdubbed with the word shit. Like, Negan was saying fuck, clearly saying fuck with his mouth, but it was dubbed as him saying shit. And I don't understand why they kept that in the final episode, but maybe they're gonna do it like that for the Blu-ray. I don't know. And now, recently, we had in episode 14, we had Dio say, or was it episode 15? I think it was episode 15, yeah. In episode 15, we had Dio say, fuck. But again, it just feels so jarring that more of the characters don't say that shit while these characters said it in this. Great visuals in this, though. Starting off from just like the color correction and the looks of it were really good, but probably some of my favorite visuals from this episode definitely came from the way the walkers were shot. Like, there was definitely some horror, very inspired horror moments in this. Like, for example, when the first zombie on this submarine woke up and it was in the fridge in like a body bag, and we were looking at the fridge room through a window. We see a hand reaching across the window, and that is a really cool shot in my opinion. Then when we had Riley seeing a bunch of walkers devouring a body, it really felt very horror and gory, and I really loved it. It definitely brought back some horror vibes from the early years of the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse. I really did enjoy that. And there was also the scene when the first zombie actually started attacking people and beat a bunch of them. And when he lunged at the captain of the submarine, the way he just walked towards him was really fucking creepy. Like, I genuinely looked to me like he was kind of levitating above the ground and not even just like walking at him. He was just levitating. And I really did enjoy that. And even then, at the end of the episode, when we got to like the open world and we got back to the beach and everything, the visuals again were really good. Like, I don't know who the hell is Fear the Walking Dead cinematographer for like season 6 and 7, but goddamn do they make some really beautiful shots. Like, The Walking Dead is so far behind Fear the Walking Dead visually. Like, the early days of Fear were great, but season 6 and 7 have some of the best visuals in the Walking Dead universe, fucking period. And again, that was the case for this as well, with like the visuals on the beach, with like the color correction looked great. And then when fucking Teddy showed up in a cameo, the way he was shot as if he's Jesus, that was really nice as well. A bit on the nose, but to be honest, it makes sense with his character. He was kind of like an over-the-top, end of the world kind of character, so I feel like it fit with his character. And I don't want to say that I actually did not expect for him to show up. It makes sense if you're gonna do a story like this that he would show up, but I actually didn't expect that they would have him for this, because I don't know when they shot this, and I'm honestly surprised that even got Nick Saho to do this, let alone John Glover. But it was admittedly pretty cool. When it comes to like that's for the visuals, but when it comes to like the writing and the plot of the episode, I do feel like it was a little bit rushed. For the most part, the episode is essentially split into 4 parts of events. There's the first part where we establish everything that is about the submarine, like who is who and their relationships between each other and everything. Then there's the second part when shit starts happening and some people get bit and there's some minimal action and we get some backstory and some world building. Then there's part 3 where we have the biggest action and set pieces and zombies attacking everybody. And then there's part 4, which is essentially the ending of the episode. That's kind of how I would split the episode. And for me, part 1, 2, and 4 are pretty good. I like them. But part 3 is really bad. And it's bad because it doesn't really do anything. Like, in part 1, you have the establishment again of the characters and everything, and that is enjoyable and it's refreshing because it's new characters that we have never seen before, outside of Riley, obviously. And we are seeing these people in the beginning of the zombie apocalypse before they know anything about that is happening around the world and everything. And that is cool. In part 2, we start to see a little bit of that breakdown with like hearing some news about stuff that are happening on land with like the army being deployed and the Navy officers on the submarine talking between between themselves about what is happening, and that is cool. We also have again the mention of like the bombing of Chicago, although I think that's closer towards the end of the episode, so it's not really there. But these kind of things were really good. But then once shit starts going down and Riley wakes up from sleep and the submarine is overrun. Not only does it feel like the submarine got overrun way too fucking quickly and we didn't really let it foster for a little bit longer, but we don't really get any cool action set pieces. We don't really get any moments where we deal with the walkers in a really cool way. Sure, we have some minorly interesting moments like whenever one black guy gets bit and then a trigger happy coward shoots the walker and then shoots the other guy. Like, we have a bunch of cool moments like that, but I feel like they didn't really utilize the setting of this episode as much as they should have. Like, I genuinely feel like they did better with this setting in episode 15 of season 6. I feel like they actually did better there than they did here. And again, the fact that it felt like kind of like a indie quality production also brought down my enjoyment for that particular part of the episode. And then comes the ending of the episode, which again is pretty cool because we have the refusal to launch a nuke against Chicago because for whatever reason the army or the government wants that to be done. Maybe because that's where it first started happening in the USA, which again what kind of makes sense based on my limited European knowledge of America. With the amount of like gun violence, again, I might be uninformed, but with the amount of gun violence, I feel like it makes sense that a lot of zombies would start popping up there in one of the first days. And it is really cool how this kind of plays into and shows the development that Riley's character goes on after this, because here he says that he is never he refuses to do that. He refuses to shoot on his own country with the nuke, and yet when Teddy manipulates him at his when he is at his most vulnerable and worst he's ever felt in his life, he then is willing to actually nuke the world because the end is the beginning. Which, by the way, I do want to mention how harrowing that scene at the end where Riley has to listen to his wife and kid getting devoured on the phone. Like, actually did not expect for that scene to hit me as hard as it did. It was actually a surprisingly emotional scene because, yeah, Riley to me is actually a pretty likable, interesting character. Big part because of his actor, but I just liked him. He was an interesting character to me. But I never really knew that he had a family, never really cared about him having a family. But seeing him break down because of that was actually really, really fucking sad. And again, it was development that he went on for this episode, because in the beginning he said like he never saw himself as much of a family man, but then at the end of the episode he does want to go and protect his family, but he can't, so he loses them. Like this, at the time at which he actually decided that he wants to be a family man, it was too late, and that guilt must have been quite a heavy wait to carry because he's ready to kill himself at the end of the episode when Teddy shows up and I guess stops him from that. But yeah, overall, like I said, it was pretty decent. I enjoyed it, but I feel like to enjoy it, at least from my perspective, you do kind of have to remember that it is a webisode and it's not like a actual Fear the Walking Dead episode. Although I definitely would consider it a part of season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, because for all intents and purposes might as well have been, considering it ties heavily into the story of season 6, and it just easily could have been episode 10 of season 6, considering we already had the episodic nature of season 6 and 7, where every episode is focused on a different character. Like, you could have easily just done that. But yeah, I guess now we should go through my notes to see if I've forgotten something about this episode. And I actually got a decent amount of notes, considering this is just like a webisode kind of thing. But it was actually pretty cool. So yeah, let's go through my notes. First thing I've written is, oh, it's a test. And that is in relation to the fact that in the beginning of the episode, the crew was doing a test to see how quickly they will be able to deploy the nuclear weapons in the submarine. Which, by the way, I just remembered now something in regards to that, but I guess I'm going to talk about it once I get to the notes that I wrote about it, because I did write about it. So let's continue with the next note. Man, I really want more early apocalypse Walking Dead stories. And yeah, I already kind of covered that. But to summarize it, for whatever reason, the early zombie apocalypse, even though I've always enjoyed the fact that The Walking Dead continues to tell you the story after the zombie movie is over, so to speak, the early days of the zombie apocalypse, like the first year or first 2 years, for whatever reason, does seem so much more exciting than anything that comes after. Like, once everything just has fallen apart already, it's just not as interesting. Like, look at Fear the Walking Dead season 1 to 3. They are set in the very early days of the zombie apocalypse, and you have so many different stories and things that happen in those early seasons, and it's so much more exciting compared to the early seasons of The Walking Dead, where it feels like already everybody has fucking died. Like, in Fear the Walking Dead, you have the plane that falls, you have the bombing, obviously, of California and LA, you have San Diego being bombed, you have the plane crash, you have the pirates who take hostage over crew. In season 3, you have a little bit more of the military. You have gangs running around. You have rich people trying to take control of commodities, like the dam in season 3 again. You have the Bazaar as well. We never got that kind of stuff in the main show, and the only other Walking Dead media where we've got these kind of like post-apocalyptic communities that kind of remind me of, like, I think Fallout. I haven't played Fallout, but it does seem reminiscent of that, is in The Walking Dead A New Frontier, where we have that one location called Prescott, where it feels like just a little post-apocalyptic city that has bars and people just hanging out and buying stuff from there, you know? I want to see more of that in the Walking Dead universe, because that is legitimately really cool. But in general, I do want to see more early zombie apocalypse stories, because it's also just more terrifying seeing the early walkers who still look very humanoid compared to the very decayed at this point walkers who just are not as terrifying for me. So yeah, the next thing I've written is, what the fuck? And I'm pretty sure that is in relation to the fact that the characters fucking swear heavily in this episode. They actually say, like, fuck like 5 or 6 times. That's at least how many I wrote down. Next thing I've written is another appendectomy, which is a funny coincidence how in one of the last few, one of the last Walking Dead episodes, we had a character who had to get a appendectomy, and there was a possibility and danger of her dying from it. And in this episode, we actually have a person dying from that. And it's really interesting how one of the characters that even says, it's not the Dark Ages anymore. People don't die from appendectomy. It's just really funny in relation to what happens in The Walking Dead in that recent episode, where a character who, for all intents and purposes, is living in the Dark Ages because the USA has fallen apart, does actually manage to survive the appendectomy. Next thing I've written is, I love seeing the military's reaction to the outbreak. And I do want to talk a little bit more about this, because for the longest time I've always kind of been annoyed when everybody complains about the fact that Fear the Walking Dead didn't really deal with the early zombie apocalypse that much, and how everybody, because of that, everybody kind of complained that we should have gotten a spin-off focused on the military and they're dealing with the zombie apocalypse. And because of that, I've always kind of been annoyed by that concept on its own. But with this episode, I'm reminded that, yeah, it is gonna be kind of cool seeing an actual spin-off set with the military. We've only gotten glimpses of that. With like World Beyond, we got that one episode, I think it was episode 6 of season 1, where we got a little bit of a glimpse of what the military was dealing with. And I did enjoy that, and I think that's one of the most liked episodes of World Beyond. We got a little bit of that in Fear the Walking Dead's early days. And now in this, we see another perspective of the military to the zombie apocalypse. And it is really cool. And at this point, I genuinely wouldn't mind getting more like that. More of that. Like maybe potentially a spin-off. But yeah, I don't know. Next thing I've written is, they are a little too gung-ho about this. And that is in relation to the fact that when the first zombie comes up and starts attacking people, they're already way too quick to shoot it. And not really shocked enough or distraught enough over the fact that they had to put him down. And that really bothers me. Because I feel like that is kind of an issue that a writer might have a hard time dealing with when they're writing a zombie story, especially a zombie story in which you have the characters not know that they are in a zombie story, because for them zombies don't exist. Because that is the case for the Walking Dead universe. So Fear the Walking Dead had to deal with that in season 1. They had to write the main characters finding out about the zombies in a way where it's logical for the characters to behave that way, to where they don't know how dangerous the zombies are and what the zombies are. But they also had to write it in a way to where it's not annoying for the viewers, to the point where they would scream at their TVs at the characters for doing dumb shit and not realizing that it's a zombie. And I think Fear the Walking Dead actually did a pretty good job to where they weren't instantly ready to go and kill the walkers. But once they realized slowly how much of a danger they are, they obviously started killing them. Like, you very much have to deal with this in a very slow burn manner, especially if you're actually seeing the collapse of society. Because in the case of The Walking Dead, it makes sense for them to kind of just instantly jump to killing the walkers. Because Rick wakes up already in this world and people already know about the zombies and are already ready to kill them. But if you're actually seeing the fall, the character shouldn't instantly be ready to kill. And that is also something that I dealt with myself in my own zombie story, Dead Inside, which you can check out on Wattpad. The link is in the description down below. I also had to write out the characters' reactions in a way to where they weren't instantly ready to kill, you know? And I feel like I actually did a pretty decent job, at least better than this, because they were way too ready to shoot them. And you could argue that they are military, so if somebody is a threat, and the guy obviously looked kind of fucked up because his guts fell out and he definitely did not look alive. and they thought he was very much dead, you can kind of make it make sense, but I feel like I would have preferred a little bit more shock and distraught from the characters. Because, like, I feel like in that situation, I would be like, what the fuck is happening? How the hell is he walking? He was dead. He was dead. Like, that's kind of what I would say in that situation. And I feel like some of those characters should have been a little bit more shocked and confused about how the fuck is he alive with his guts out and attacking and biting people. And by the way, as we are talking about that scene, I do want to mention something that I think I forgot talking about, which is how the fuck are so many of these characters, not characters, but these zombies already so fucking decayed? Like, it wasn't more than a couple of hours from the point in which the guy died to turning, but he was already so fucking decayed. And that is even more of an issue for some of the other kills who don't have the argument of like being in a fridge, which kind of makes them more, their skin look more decayed. And there's also the issue with how easy some of the walkers are to stab or kill, considering how fresh they are. But to be honest, I feel like that is an issue for the Walking Dead universe in general, especially in the last couple of seasons. I feel like they've had a bit of an issue with actually doing the kills logically in comparison to how recently the characters have died. Because it makes sense for like a walker that has been dead for like 10 years that it would be relatively easy to pierce its brain, but not when it's a fresh body. Like, the skull would still be very fucking hard. But yeah, let's continue with the notes. Yeah, the next thing I've written is also very much part of this. You are way too quick to kill. And that is, I think, also in relation to the next thing that I've written, which is Fear the Walking Dead and the second zombie kill being with a fire extinguisher. Because if you remember back in season 1, the first zombie kill that we had was, from my main characters at least, was when Nick ran over his drug supplier with a pickup truck. That was the first zombie kill. And then for the second zombie kill, if I remember correctly, it's Madison killing the principal of the school where Alicia went to. And she killed him with a fire extinguisher. And in this episode, the first death is the guy who had the appendectomy. And the second zombie kill was by Riley, again with a fire extinguisher. I just like that if it's intentional, that is actually really cool that I actually stayed true to what Fear started off like. I really do like that. Next thing I've written is, man, I've missed fresh looking walkers. And indeed I have. I already went through why I missed them, but I just find them looking more human-like and more fresh, that much more horrifying. I didn't realize how scarier they used to be, you know? Next thing I've written is sick kill, which is in relation to Riley stabbing one of the people with a knife. It was a little bit dumb, because like, why the fuck was he holding the knife onto the table and then slam the zombie's head onto it instead of just stabbing him? But I don't know, I'm not a specialist, so I don't know why he would do that. And next thing I've written out is actually every time the character said what the fuck. I've written second what the fuck, third what the fuck, fourth the fuck, etc. And again, for the next thing that I've written is, why are they not more shocked? Like, that is one of my biggest issues with this. Why are the characters so quick to accept what is happening as if it's just happening? Like, there's only like one scene kind of speculating about what the fuck is happening, why are these people behaving like that. And that is the one scene between Riley and his friend where his friend says that the guy who had appendectomy and died was like a rabid dog. He was like behaving like a rabid dog. I wish we got more of that. It should have been a little bit more slow build up. Like, I guess maybe they should have made this just a 60-minute special that they did, and they should have just taken that time to kind of do a little bit more of a slow burn, because I feel like that's what it should have been. Next thing I've written is, I love that they did the nuke launching refusal thing. I don't know if that's an intentional homage to what has happened several times, I think, in history, but there have been times in history where people in nuclear submarines have refused to launch nukes after they've been ordered to due to false positives. And I feel like Riley refusing to shoot the nuke in this episode was kind of an homage or a reference to that. Even if it's not an intentional reference to that, I still like that. I would consider it canonically a reference to that for me personally. Because I think it is really cool. And it just makes the fact that he does shoot the nuke later on that much more impactful. Next thing I've written is, that submarine tilt was cool. Like, seeing all the walkers slide around in the submarine, that was actually kind of funny. Although I still don't really understand how the fuck did the submarine end up on the fucking beach. Like, how the fuck was it beach? I don't think it's that fucking easy for it to be beached like that. I feel like for it to be beached like that, unless I misunderstand how the fuck submarines work, there would have to be like a really high tide. Debatably, there should be a tsunami, which I don't think there was. So I don't know how the fuck they did that, but whatever. Next thing I've written is that phone call though. And like I said, that phone call at the end where Riley had to listen to his family getting devoured was really fucking haunting and really well done in my opinion. It definitely hit fucking hard for me, and I really, really enjoyed that. That is definitely the highlight of the episode for me, for sure. And the final thing that I've written is, hi Teddy, because I actually, like I said, did not expect to see him. It's not unpredictable that he would be there, I just didn't expect that they would actually get him for this special webisode thing. It is cool that he appeared in this. And like I said, because he appeared in this, and we learned pretty much the backstory for Riley in this episode, this could have been just episode 10 or episode 11 of season 6. Because, like, if I remember correctly, episode 10 was the Daniel episode. And while I wouldn't take this episode over the Daniel episode, in terms of actually building up the villains of the second half of season 6, I definitely would have preferred this over that, because that one was just a Daniel episode, which I guess just was developing his character a little bit, and it was admittedly cool and I enjoyed it because I love Daniel, but it was not really necessary for the plot that much, so there's that. But yeah, in terms of a rating for this, I will give it a little bit of a lower rating than you might expect considering the things that I said about it. I am going to give it a 7.6 out of 10. And like I said, the biggest reason is not because of the concept itself. I think the concept itself is fine. I think the characters featured in this are fine, and the focus being on Riley and his character that being developed is fine. I just feel like the execution and the lack of budget for this, I feel like could really kind of drag it down a little bit, and it just ultimately feels like it should have gone through a few more rewrites and just been in the oven for a little longer. It is overall good, but it definitely should have been better. It's kind of how I want to say it. But yeah, what did you guys think about this episode? Comment your thoughts down below and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before ending this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently one patron on Patreon, Deadpool. Thank you for your support, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me. If you've continued to support me for such a long time, hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much.
And now, before we end this video, I just want to talk about something to you guys very quickly, which some of you may or may have not noticed before or know about me, that being the fact that I am trans. And yes, this may come as shocking to some of you because I don't really flaunt it that much on my channel, or at least I feel like I don't. Outside of like my K-pop reactions, which is where I feel like the most comfortable being myself like this. And yeah, I am in fact trans. I'm not necessarily full-on male to female, but I heavily want to transition to being pretty female. I do consider myself more non-binary though, or maybe gender fluid would be the best descriptor as well, because I do have occasional moments where I feel fine being like just a normal guy, but most of the time, like right now, I do feel very dysphoric. And that's why I'm asking you guys for any help that you can give me, because my situation right now, I don't really see any way outside of you guys' help. Because, and this is gonna be kept short and concise, I live with my parents. They're never going to accept me as a trans person. They just never will. And as a matter of fact, back when I started the YouTube channel, I was actually kind of slightly starting my transition back then, with like starting to grow out my hair. I even got to DIY HRT, but because my parents started noticing certain things, like my behavior had changed a lot and my clothes had changed a lot, I kind of had to stop doing that because they were constantly nagging me about cutting my hair and just started to kind of be threatening in a certain way, and felt like they were ashamed of me and everything. And that just kind of stress just tired me out to the point where I just gave up. But as dysphoria goes, it just doesn't go away, you know. I still feel like this, and in fact it's somewhat been intensifying again recently, so I just wanted to share this with you guys. And again, I would really appreciate any amount of support you can give me in regards to this, because I just don't see any way out of this. Because even if I moved out of my parents' house and got myself a job and everything, that's just not gonna work for long-term planning, because once I transition, it's like I probably will not be able to get myself a job, because my country is very transphobic. Nobody gives a shit about LGBT people at all. So there's not even much I can do even in terms of transitioning here. So yeah, I don't know. I just would appreciate any amount of support you can give me, be it monetarily or in any way otherwise. And this is not about boosting my channel or anything, or guilt tripping you with my sob story. I just wanted to get this off my chest and make my subscribers aware of the situation that I am in, and that I would appreciate anything that you guys can help me out with. It would mean literally everything. Like, for example, a friend that I made after starting this YouTube channel, my good friend Yuri, has been helping me out a lot. And I genuinely might have not been here if it wasn't for him showing up and befriending me. So yeah, this just went a little bit longer than I intended, but I would just really appreciate anything you can support me with. That's kind of ultimately what I'm trying to say.
And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you don't follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account, where I can pledge support and help the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think this is pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!